If you could catch people as they're coming into the room.
I will do that.
Thank you. What time is it? 7:03. Welcome everyone to the December meeting of NPU-F. I'm Debbie Skipczynski, chair of the meeting. Also with us tonight is Kay Stevenson, who's currently on screen. Kay is vice chair. Doug Young, who is the planner assigned to NPU-F. Doug, do you want to say hello so your face comes up on the screen too? We know who you are.
Sure, everybody. Good evening, everybody. My name is Doug Young. I'm with the NPU-F planner assigned to this NPU. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And Carol Shinara, who is taking minutes tonight. Carol, do you want to say hello so people can see you?
Hello. Hi. I'm
Thank
Carol
you.
Shinara and I live in the unit. Thank you.
Thanks. We have two agendas. Both of them are in the chat. The first is the complete agenda, which is the one that has the NPU-F map on it. This has every application that we'll consider tonight. And the other is the consent agenda, which is also in the chat. And this is includes items that historically NPU-F has approved with little or no discussion. We will, you'll have an opportunity to remove items from the consent agenda later in the meeting. A quick orientation for first time or infrequent Zoom users. When you entered the room, your audio was muted. Please stay muted throughout the meeting so that background noise does not interrupt the flow of the meeting. You can unmute on your screen, or if you've called in, use *6 to unmute on your phone. Zoom publishes a participant list which lists everyone who is attending this meeting. Your name will sit at the top of the list. If there's more than one person using the same device, please include both names on the participant list. To do that, click on More next to your to the right of your name to find Rename as an option. Since tonight we are going to use the honor system to vote, we are not identifying verified members. I ask you to please resist the urge to vote if you don't live in our NPU. We will be using the raise your hand icon when we do vote, and you'll find this button under the reactions tab, which for most people should be at the bottom of your screen. Residents of NPU-F may vote on any issues unless they have a financial interest in the application or motion. So for example, a property or business owner may vote on their own variances, but they should not vote on their own variances, but they can vote on others. If you're not an NPU resident, business owners may vote if they have met the requirements as described in our bylaws. I mentioned the chat earlier. You can use this to share comments to an individual or everyone in the meeting. For most of you, it'll be at the bottom of your screen. Copies of the agenda, the consent agenda, the minutes for November have been loaded. The chat room will be monitored for comments and questions, but we will only be answering questions if they are relevant to the topic being discussed. Also, at the end of the meeting, you should have an option to save the chat for information that might have been placed there. To do that, you click on the 3 dots at the bottom of the chat screen. Our meetings do follow a town hall format. If you wish to speak, use the raise your hand function, or if you're on your phone, use *9. You'll be called on to speak in order that the hands go up. Please be sure to stay muted until you're invited to speak, and then identify yourself so folks will know who is speaking. Please don't wave your hand on screen unless you are just being friendly, because there are too many people in the room for me to see it. And please do not speak unless you are called on. Others may be in the queue and waiting their turn. Please keep all questions and comments germane to the topic being addressed and respectful of everyone in the meeting. I'll be watching the time and may need to cut off discussion so that we can get through our agenda in a reasonable amount of time. To allow all an opportunity to speak, I'm going to ask that you only speak once on a topic unless you are asked for clarification or a question on previous remarks. Once again, so that we can all hear and we can get a good recording for the archives, it's important that only one person speaks at a time. If you interrupt, you will be muted. Finally, we are here tonight because city ordinance provides residents of Atlanta through the NPU system the opportunity to provide recommendations and comments on applications and legislative changes that impact our quality of life. It's our responsibility to tell them what we think, and when appropriate, to share the strength of that opinion through hand counts. All votes taken at the NPU meetings, however, are only recommendations. Final decisions are made by city boards or city council, and I hope that you will take advantage of expressing your opinion there as well, either in writing, by phone, or by leaving a comment during public hearing opportunities. Our first order of business is the approval of the November minutes. They have been placed in the chat. They were also sent to people on our NPU-F mailing list and were posted about a week ago on the NPU-F website. Are there any additions or corrections to the November minutes? I see no hands raised, so we'll take that as being no changes or corrections. Is there a motion to approve the November minutes without?
So moved.
Thank you, Kay. Is there a second? Thank you, Rich. Okay, just so that everyone can find the raise your hand function, sometimes it's a little tricky to do so. If you are in favor of approving the minutes, please click the raise your hand function. It is, you can find it under the reactions tab at the, when you click on that at the very bottom, it says raise hand. So if you would do that. And once again, the only reason why I do this is so that everyone can find the button early in the meeting. Okay. One more seconds. Let's count 21 in favor. Now, please lower your hand, and you do that using also under the reactions tab where it says lower hand. Okay. If there's anyone opposed to approving the minutes, please raise your hand. Excuse me. I don't see any hands raised, and we don't count abstentions. So by a vote of 21 ayes and 0 nays, the November minutes were approved. I don't have any announcements today, so we're going to move to reports from city departmental representatives. Major Reese and Major Center are here from Zone 6 and Zone 2 respectively, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to you. Major Center.
Good evening. Good evening, Major Senzer. I'm your Zone 2 commander. Well, first I want to start out by saying that the Atlanta Police Department had some major organizational changes recently with a lot of lateral movement, some promotions, vacancies that needed to be filled. And fortunately, or at least I hope you all feel this way, Major Reese and I maintain commands of our respective zones. So I'm happy to still be here. I'm sure Major Reese can say the same thing. Both of us, however, got new captains. So we're breaking in our new captains as we speak, and I believe they're both on the Zoom meeting. So I have Captain Jason Smith, Major Reese has Captain Peter Malecki. I've worked with both of these individuals, and they are top notch. I expect that they're going to remain super engaged and involved and help us both out tremendously. So, consider yourselves formally introduced to Captain Smith and Captain Malecki. So we're winding down the year, and I've told my officers to keep their foot on the pedal. We're ticking the needle in the right direction with crime right now. From the Zone 2 side, we're seeing an overall reduction of crime this year by 4%, and compared to 2019, I believe it's negative 12%. So we are moving in the right direction, and that's good to see. So I have to say, I feel compelled to say, because it's the holiday time, just remember to, when you're out shopping and out and about, just make sure that your items are secure and not visible in your vehicles. If you have a weapon in your car, make sure it's either on you or secured in a lockbox. Schedule your packages for delivery when you can. If you got a Ring camera and you see a package delivered, call your neighbor or let someone inside your house know to go retrieve the package. And just maintain good situational awareness when you're out and about, whether it's going to a restaurant or going to the service station to fill up your car, going to the dry cleaners, wherever you're going. Just the first thing we want to do when we stop driving is get on our cell phones and kind of see the missed calls and texts. But take that time to look around you and pay attention to your surroundings. I think vigilant people are typically safe people. So that's it. I really don't have anything else to report. Oh, I do have one thing. We did do a compliance check at Platinum over the weekend. Our license and permits unit went out and did a check of the valet operation, and they were found to not have a valid permit at this time, although they have an application pending for one. So they were told to cease and desist until they have valid permits. So that's it from me. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Major Senzer? Please raise your hand if you've got a question. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, well, if anybody has anything, I left my email in the chat box earlier. So you don't have to wait until the next NPU meeting to get in touch with me. Please email me if you have any questions or concerns or something that needs to be addressed, and we'll make sure that we're on top of it.
Great, thank you. And Major Reese?
Hey, good evening. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. Major Senzer covered a significant portion of everything that I was going to say, but that's okay. I want to personally welcome as well Captain Smith for Zone 2, and me a little more selfishly, Captain Malecki, to Zone 6. As Major Senzer said, they are both stand-up gentlemen, professional, responsible, and responsive. They didn't get to where they are today without being all three of those things. So I look forward to working with Captain Malecki specifically here in Zone 6. And Kay, he has put his email in the chat box. So loop him in quick.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. The one thing I did want to cover is we did have a shooting at 1544 Piedmont, which was the Hideaway Bar, back on December 4th. There were some individuals that were engaged in a verbal altercation. One of the, well, we'll call them suspects at this point, assaulted our victim with the firearm and then proceeded to shoot him. As of right now, the investigators are still working it. It's an active investigation, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be some closure behind it. It was a isolated incident. It wasn't random. They had interaction throughout the day, and more specifically that evening. So I just wanted everybody to know that. Additionally, the Hideaway, as you all may be aware, over there in the Ansley Mall, Ansley Walk area, that location is on our radar, to say the least. And if or when there are any issues further with it, I'll be sure to report you to you folks, and or anything that we do from a police department perspective. So I wanted to touch base on that. The Virginia Highlands, we've had a couple auto thefts. A few of them, well, I will say actually more than a few, had left keys in the car or left it running. So just a friendly reminder that if you can, please don't leave your keys in the car. So as Major Senzer said, we're closing in on the end of the year as well. And we're going to try and get through these holidays in one piece, health-wise, and I hope that all of you do the same. And I will just say, remember to wear your mask. All right. That's all I got in case unless anybody has any questions.
Go ahead, Kay.
Just a couple of quick things. More to let everyone else know, Virginia Highland, Morningside, Piedmont Heights, and Druid Hills have all joined up. And tomorrow we're providing a holiday meal for Zone 6. Peter, I would be there, but I'm sick and I'm going to keep my germs to myself. So I'm sure everyone will appreciate that. And the other thing, and I don't know if you are on top of this or if somebody else is handling it, but I wondered if you had any update on what's going on with Willie Jermaine Grace, who's been in Virginia Highland harassing patrons and employees and sleeping at the colonnades, condominiums, and really being quite the nuisance.
Yeah, no, that was brought to our attention, and we're working with Officer Stanio, the quality of life officer. Of course, you know him.
Yeah.
In cooperation with Hope, and we're going to see what we can accomplish, because as you said, it can only go one way, and it's not a good way, and so we don't need nor want that to occur anymore. So as soon as I get a definitive update as it relates to specifically him and what we can do, or what options that he will accept, though I'm not real confident in that, I'll be sure to let you guys know.
Okay. And any advice, that you or anyone else has for the community of what we can do to make this situation not any worse, just let us know.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, you're pretty much on top of it, Kay. You put out the appropriate information as it relates to that, and others similar to that situation. But if you are in any type of fear, immediately call 911. Just call 911 and we'll triage it from there. And that can help us locate him quickly in an efficient manner as well.
Okay, that's all I had.
Gotcha. Thank you, Kay. Brian?
Brian Berry, go ahead.
Yes, just a question. I don't know if it's going to be addressed later, but is there an update on any infractions or situation at the Octopus Bar? I know it's going through the approval process, but what have you seen from the police perspective about what's going on at the Octopus Bar?
Well, I don't have any specific updates as it relates to that. But what I can do is to have an informative answer for you. I can research. I can work with our partners over at License and Permits and get some type of definitive answer for you.
Okay, I just say feed that through the MLPA and the other local organizations. And while we're at it, is there an update on any of the homeless situation in the area around Ansley Mall? There's been a group of people that have been hanging out either on park benches or right there at the corner of Monroe and Piedmont. And any update on what we're doing with those folks?
Well, the homeless challenge is, for lack of a better term, a challenge. So we're sympathetic. We're also concerning, and so we don't try and overdo it. So we work quite often with our partners there at Hope, which falls under Major Singh in our community-oriented policing section. And I feel like that's the best shot for it. So I'll work with them to get an update. But they go out routinely and try and engage folks. Now, if you see what you perceive to be a violation, where there are on public property, camping or obstructing some type of a walkway or anything like that, be sure to let us know, because that can be dealt with immediately.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions? Is it I don't see any other hands raised. I just wanted to say that when Major Senzer said there was another reorganization in APD, my first thought was, oh crap. I am thrilled that the two of you will be with us at least until the next reorganization. So thank you for everything that you've done for NPU-F. And I know that we've had our challenges as well, especially along Cheshire Bridge. And you guys are just doing a phenomenal job. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. I'm sure Major Senzer does as well.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy holidays to you both. And also welcome. I just saw that Captain Smith and Captain Malecki are here in the meeting. Welcome. We're very good.
Hey, Debbie, I know you guys are busy. Can we just have them pop on camera and show their face and say hello?
Oh,
real quick?
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I called them out.
Good evening.
Hello, everybody. Go ahead, Pete.
Oh, sorry, Jason. I'm Captain Peter Malecki, and I'll be working with Major Reese. So I look forward to getting to meet everyone and working together to try to make things a little better. So thank you.
So how do you keep track of the Pete's at Zone 6?
Well, you just got to get the last name down, or just go with Pete, and you'll get one of us.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Jason Smith. Very excited to be in Zone 2. I was a sergeant out in Zone 2 in the overnight shift probably about 8 years ago or so. So I'm very happy to be back. I'm very happy to. I look forward to working with all of you. So please don't hesitate to contact us.
Great. Thank you. Glad to have you here. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to Atlanta Fire Rescue, if they are here? Is there anyone here from Atlanta Fire Rescue? I don't see anyone. Pretty close to the holidays. Are there any other Atlanta City employees that would like to make a presentation?
Good evening.
Oh.
Good evening, NPU-F. This is Pete Francis, Department of Public Works Suite Officer. Happy holidays to everyone. Just want to enlighten the NPU that the contractors are still out there assisting with those yard trimming collection. It can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes. However, they are not collecting the bulk trimming. They're not collecting any trimming that is in excess of 20 bags. So for residents who have more than 20 bags at their curbside, they have to schedule for bulk. Additionally, there are 3 locations, if you so choose to utilize them, where you can drop off your yard trimming. That whole landfill over by Key Road, over by Northside Drive, 1540 Northside Drive, or over by James Jackson. Hope everybody will have a wonderful Christmas. That's it for me. If you have any question, I'll happily take them. My email and phone number is in the chat.
And thank you, officers. Francis, would you also put the locations of the drop-off locations for those that haven't seen that information?
Okay, I will. If I don't put it in the chat, I will email you the exact location, exact address tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions for Officer Francis of Public Works? Okay, I don't see any questions, but I do see Constance Harris's hand raised from ATL 311.
Good evening, everyone, and happy holidays. My name is Constance Harris. I'm the Executive Assistant to our Commissioner, Maisha Good, for ATL 311. ATL 311 is the non-emergency call center for the City of Atlanta Services. 311 is the number you dial to report things like potholes, water main breaks, questions about your water bill and solid waste services, code violations, traffic light and sign maintenance, general information, and much more. We are open Monday through Friday, except this Friday. The city is closed, and next Friday, so we'll be closed on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. But other than that, we're open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can reach us by dialing 311 inside the incorporated city limits. Otherwise, our full number is 404-546-0311. At any time, you can email us, download our mobile app, report issues through our website, or message us on social media. All contact information has been placed in the chat. ATL 311 is also partnering with the PAD initiative to provide community referral services for quality of life concerns related to unmet mental health needs, substance abuse, or extreme poverty. When a community member makes a referral, the PAD team will travel to the area and attempt to engage the referred individual and connect to them through our services. Thank you for allowing us to present on tonight. And please let me know if you have any questions or escalations that I can report to our department in the morning.
Any questions for Ms. Harris and ATL 311? Jerry Newmark, do you have a brief question?
Yes, last meeting, I had a concern about the striping on Monroe. It's disappeared in some areas and impossible to try to keep in a lane at night. And you told me that you would get back to me the next day. Well, here we are a month later and you still haven't gotten back to me about that, but the concern is still there.
I actually forwarded your information. I escalated your information within our department. And I do apologize that they did not get in contact with you because they should have. So Mr. Newmark.
Jerry, do you want to leave your contact information in the chat for Ms. Harris?
I may have to get June to do that one, but
Yeah, please do that, because you also didn't, last meeting, you didn't provide a work order number or anything, or a service request number. And mostly we base it on that because when you call in, that's what you're issued. Or if you email in or however you do it. But if you leave your number, I will make sure that it's escalated in the morning if we have to be on a three-way.
actually, when I called in, they never gave me a work order number.
Okay. Well, if you put your number in the chat, I'll make sure we contact you in the morning. I do apologize for no one getting in contact with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. So Ms. Harris, if you'll hang around long enough for Jerry to get that information in.
I will.
Okay, great. Thanks. Is there anyone else from the city that is here to make a report? I don't see anyone else. We'll move on to comments from elected officials. Are there any elected officials or representatives of elected officials? We have a report. We are awfully close to the holidays, so I know folks aren't making this meeting. Okay, I don't see anyone else. Then let's move to the consent agenda. That was also placed in the chat right just before the meeting started. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. The first is V21-308. This is 1009 Drury Street, Northeast in Virginia Highland. Virginia Highland is recommending approval. The second is V21-309 at 13 Highland Park Lane Northeast. This is in Morningside, and Morningside is recommending approval. Is there anyone here at today's meeting who wants to have an application, one of these 2 applications, removed from the consent agenda so that it can be discussed in their regular place on the agenda? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Is there an applicant here who wants to have their application discussed at this meeting? No
Madam
hands
Chair,
up.
I ask unanimous consent that these be accepted absent objection, that there be.
Jack, hang on, Jack. Let me finish asking my 3 questions and then I will ask for a motion. Thank you. Is there anyone here who's in opposition to any of these three recommendations? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, by acclamation, I ask that we accept these motions by unanimous consent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Rich. The motion is to accept by acclamation the two items on the consent agenda. All those, is there anyone in opposition to the?
Already approved it actually by failing to object to your motion, Madam Chair.
I'm just confirming, Jack. Okay, the consent agenda is approved.
Thank you.
If you are one of the two applicants, you're more than you're welcome to attend the rest of the meeting, or otherwise we are finished for the morning. I just saw Stacy Evans join the meeting. Usually it takes us a little longer to get to the comments from elected officials. Stacy, did you have anything you wanted to offer tonight?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, briefly. Sorry, I was in a neighborhood meeting that ran a little long tonight, so I'm sorry I wasn't over here quicker. Just a quick update from our redistricting session. We redrew legislative district, state house, state senate, as well as congressional district lines. I will put some information in the chat with a link to all those maps. If you want to nerd out on the maps and see where everything shook out, you can see all the changes, congressional, senate, and house. All of us here in this NPU remain in congressional district 5, but I know a lot of y'all may have some interest in the changes that happened between district 6 and 7, as well as other areas, as well as the state senate. I wanted to update you on specifically what happened to House District 57, which is that it becomes and I should say, let me preface, the maps themselves the maps themselves, from my perspective, had issues, and I voted against them, as well as all the members of the Democratic caucus. The House and the Senate both did. But for District 57, it's a really nice change. I hate that I'm losing a lot of my Southern friends and neighbors that have gotten to know and have supported me. But for compactness and all the things that we like to see in maps, District 57 looks very nice. It goes from a 13.5-mile snake that slivers through the city to a discernible shape, which is sort of a rectangle that's probably about 3 miles long. Starting in Buckhead, I add a couple of Buckhead neighborhoods. For this NPU, we'll continue to include Lynn Ridge, Martin Manor, Morningside, and it currently includes only portions of Virginia Highlands. It will now include, as best I can tell, nearly all, if not all, of Virginia Highlands. There may be some little speck somewhere that got drawn in. And I will also, for House District 57, pick up Piedmont Heights from this NPU, as well as Ansley Park and Sherwood Forest, of course, from another NPU. But it respects neighborhood lines, which is what I have been screaming about to anybody who would listen for the last year, that this city is organized by neighborhoods and it works really well. And I wish that our state house lines would respect it. So at least for District 57, that becomes true. So it will be my honor to get a chance to represent more of you and get to know more of you over the next year. And hopefully we'll continue on in 2022, but certainly until we vote again, I will still represent all of District 57 as it exists right now, which currently includes some neighborhoods on this NPU and will continue to do so after the change. So the local redistricting will happen in the regular session. So that will start January, February, council districts, commission districts, school board districts. That's largely driven by the local elected officials, though they'll work with us to make sure that they get those maps drawn and passed. So if you haven't already signed up for my updates, please visit my website, which I'll put in the chat, and make sure you get on that email list so that you can get the latest. And that is it. I'll put this info in the chat if anybody wants to go and look around. And of course, if there's time and if there's interest, I am certainly happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Sure. Anyone have any questions? don't see any tonight.
All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, again, for all you do. Hope you have a great holiday and a very happy new year. And if I can do anything for you, let me know if you're having trouble with state agencies in any way. DOT is the most popular problem child. And certainly if you have any thoughts about the upcoming legislative session, I'll be here. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you for your regular monthly updates. It's been great to have you or Olivia here to bring us news from the state, because it's been kind of a crazy year. So thanks. And you have a great holiday
Thank you.
season too.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, matters for voting. First item on the agenda are special events. We have two special events. First is Pure Heat Community Festival. Melissa Scott.
Hey there.
Hey, Melissa.
How are you guys today?
Good.
Good.
We know that Pure Heat has been a regular event for a number of years. So do you just want to very briefly describe if there's going to be anything different?
So different and the same at the same time. Different in that because of COVID, obviously, in Jazz Fest last year, we had to relocate to the fountain area and the promenade area. And that was a one-time anomaly that we did for 2021. For 2022, we plan on going back to where we've been for the last 9 years, which is going to be the Charles Allen 10th Street little area there, where we plan on going back to the Class C. And so basically what we're going to for 2022 will mimic everything we did from 2012 through 2019. Yeah. So going back to that, and of course, well, any other change would be obviously that with our trash issue from a few years back, we'll stay with Witten going forward.
Okay, in Class C, you're
Right.
expecting one less than 20,000 participants.
One less, unless you come, of course, and if you come, then we'll go ahead and go up a class so that we can go to 20,000.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Melissa?
One more thing to mention, we did add back the additional officers to cover the Rainbow Square for let out of the festival. We added those additional 5 officers to cover the corner of, I believe that's 10th and Piedmont. So they'll cover the Rainbow after the event ends.
Oh, great. That's where there's been a lot of.
Yeah, it gets really congested after the festival. So we just added some officers to make sure that the traffic flow is not impacted.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Melissa?
So I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and this is a comment to go back, not to Melissa, but to planning, that we really shouldn't be being asked to approve events that are more than 10 months in the future. I mean, this is for next fall. So that's a little ridiculous. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? But that's all, just a comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've asked that myself.
Yeah, I can add to that, just not that you asked my opinion. With us, what happens with regard to planning, hypothetically speaking, let's say the permit's not approved, like, down the line. I know things may happen. COVID may spike back up. We may end up canceling, you never know. But if we don't have some sort of contingent possibility of a yes, then we can't, be honest with sponsors and say things like, we're going to do this event. So it's difficult to get sponsors to buy in to the event. It's difficult to get even like, for example, Witten Management, it's difficult to get a contract from them to agree to clean up the park if we don't have something pending with regard to permit.
I get that. We run big festivals in our neighborhoods as well,
Right
and we
on.
have to get them permitted as well. But talking about something for next fall is pretty out there. Usually we're not, in the past, we were not approving things this far in advance, and COVID has kind of been used as an excuse. So that's not on you at all. That's really on planning and their process.
Gotcha.
As well as the ordinance that they have.
That requires, once you submit your permit, it has to come before us in a certain period of time, which is shouldn't be the criteria.
Right. Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to support?
Vote to support.
Okay, Kay made the motion to support and Rich.
Second it.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Any questions about the motion? Okay, all those in favor of supporting the Pure Heat Community Festival to be held in September of 2022, please raise your hand. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The voting's closed. That's 20 ayes. Please lower your hand. All righty. Anyone opposed, please raise your hand. I don't see any nays. By a vote of 20 ayes and 0 nays, the motion to support does carry. Thank you, Melissa. And let us know if anything changes with your event.
Will do. And if anything comes up, obviously my contact is in the application. Please just as soon as possible, if anything comes up, just reach out to me and we'll do what we can to be in compliance.
Okay, great, thanks. Next application is the AIDS Walk Atlanta and Music Festival.
Hi there, my name is Ann Pico. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having this event for so many years. Piedmont has been a great location. I don't need to sell it to you. The location that is. The event has kind of ebbed and flowed. It's shrunk and grown as numbers. We've kind of balanced out, who knows, with our last year's attendance, but given the timeline of the event, we start with yoga and a DJ. We notice that some people come for that and then depart, and then we get a different group sometimes for the run and walk. So there's kind of a constant flow of participants coming. We don't anticipate any changes from the past. We originally submitted our event permit to set up right at the 10th Street. Last year, we relocated a little bit north where the path curves around a little bit, just to work around some of the wet or damaged turf from the music festival the weekend before. So given logistics purposes, if that space is suitable, we would like to go back to our original setup. It just makes for easier logistical movement of vehicles and just an easier traffic flow. But other than that, we don't have any anticipated changes. We're looking to produce the same event essentially that we have.
Okay, and your sound has kind of gone in and out.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Quick recap. We're looking to, is this better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
Okay, I'm as loud as I can. We're looking to produce the same event as we have in the past, the same route, essentially the same event timeline, starting with a yoga, stretching in the morning, a 5K run walk that starts at 11, and usually by 2 o'clock this past year, the event was pretty well dispersed from the entertainment portion.
Okay, are there any questions for Ann on the AIDS Walk? Your route is, as I understand from your application, all the way around the outside of Piedmont Park, which includes Monroe Drive.
Correct.
Right. And you're expecting
in a clockwise direction.
Right. And you're expecting 3,000 participants?
Yes, I would say last year we had about 1,000 participants for the DJ and walk run portion. I was trying to explain that not everybody stays for the whole thing. There's kind of 2 elements of the event. So I wouldn't say that we had more than 1,500 to 2,000, 1,500 people there at a time. However, just given the dynamic of what was happening in the environment of health concerns, we would hope that we would get some more people, but we didn't.
Okay. Any Any other questions? I don't see any. Is there a motion?
Chair,
to support.
absent objection, I move that we accept this by unanimous consent.
Accept with unanimous consent. Okay, is there a second?
Second. Rebecca.
Rebecca, thank you. Are there any objections to accepting this by unanimous consent? If so, please raise your hand. Jack, I see your hand raised. Joanne, I
Bring it
also,
down as fast as I can.
okay. Joanne, I also saw your hand raised. Did you want to do that? Okay, so
Beauty of this is we don't have to vote, Madam Chair.
no,
because
no,
there's
I know, Jack, I know what unanimous consent means. I just wanted to, I saw hands raised. I just want to be careful.
statement to the body, Madam Chair, not you.
Yeah. Okay, so the motion to recommend approval or to support the AIDS walk is approved by unanimous consent.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Have a healthy year.
The next item is the alcohol license for Sprouts number 519. This is the property that's at 1845 Piedmont Avenue Northeast. It's a retail grocery supermarket and it's a change of agent. Is the applicant present?
Hi, Debbie. It's Mindy Thompson with Sardin Left, and I believe Elmira, the agent, is on the call as well. Elmira, if you could identify yourself.
Yes, I am on the call.
Okay, great. Thank you. Please tell us about Sprouts and your alcohol license.
Sure. So Elmira would be the new agent on the alcohol license. Should be on site at least 40 hours per week. She has over 10 years of experience working in grocery stores, two of the past years at Sprouts, and before that she was with Fresh Market. So no other changes at the supermarket, just Elmira will now be the agent on the alcohol license, and this will be the first one that she has ever held.
Okay. I did check with the Morningside neighborhood and there have been no complaints at this location. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, is there a motion?
Move to support.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Second.
Oh, Jack, okay. Okay, any questions about the motion? All those in favor, we'll do a hand count this time. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I see 22 ayes. You can go ahead and lower your hand. You guys are good. Okay. Philip. Oh, good. All right. Anyone opposed to recommending approval of this application? Don't see any hands raised. By a vote of 22 ayes, 0 nays, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, BZA applications. The first is V21-213, 875 Glenarden Way Northeast. The applicant seeks a special exception from the zoning regulations to exceed the maximum height of a fence in the front yard and half-depth front yard from 4 feet to 6 feet along Glenarden Way and Brookridge Drive. And 2, to allow a privacy fence where one is otherwise prohibited. For those of you that are new to our NPU meetings, the way we handle variances and special exceptions is to ask the applicant to give a brief explanation of their project. I then ask the neighborhood who has done all the research on the application to provide their recommendation, and then we open up the application for comments and questions and take a vote. So will the applicant from V21-213 like to describe
Yes,
your
good evening.
project?
Can you hear me?
Yes, and please be brief.
Sure. So we are seeking a special exemption from the zoning regulation, as you said, first to exceed the maximum height of a wooden fence / wall in the front yard and a half that front yard from 4 feet to 6 feet. And second, to allow a wall where one is otherwise prohibited. The structure will be built entirely of wood to 2 separate criteria, each with different degrees of closure to prevent the passage of light and air, from ground to 4 feet up to 100% closed. The top 2 feet will feature lattice and will be a maximum of 50% impervious. There is no expected impact on trees and no impact on stormwater retention and flow. Immediate neighbors were notified and signs posted today on the property. And the sign and placement of the wall fence has been agreed and discussed with the Virginia Highlands Civic Association.
Okay, thank you. Virginia Highland, do you have a report?
Yes, we negotiated this over, it took some effort and time, and thank you. Mr. Mazzetti is actually calling us from Italy. He may be the longest distance applicant in recent memory, at least, where he is back home for the holidays. We negotiated an agreement with him and his wife on this. This fence is an unusual lot siting. There is foliage there now, and there will be additional foliage planted around it after he constructs the fence. We are having a slight struggle with the planning department over the definition of the actual variance. They told him he only needed a variance. This will wake you up, Diane, if you're still here. They only needed a variance to raise the height from 4 to 6 feet. But in fact, his original proposal and much of what's there now is what is sometimes known in the vernacular as the Virginia Highland fence, which is solid from 4 feet down. And it is actually a wall in that respect, which is why Mr. Mazzetti is using the terminology that we ask him to use, wall/fence. We have suggested and are trying to get the planning department to reword to accept an additional variance that in fact needs a variance to construct a wall because the entire structure will be taken as a whole over 50%. Neither Mr. Mazzetti nor us to this point have convinced the planning department, but hope springs eternal, and we're certain that they will understand it when they get over their holiday rush and actually sit down there and look at their own code. Doug, we'd love some help if you have it. So our motion is to approve, subject to the inclusion of an additional variance that notes that this structure is in fact over 50% impervious and is therefore, according to the city's own code, a wall more than it is a fence. But in any case, if that's rejected by the planning department, we will continue to support it, confident that Mr. Mazzetti will build the fence/wall as he has painstakingly negotiated over repeated meetings. I therefore recommend approval, noting to the NPU that we are seeking a modification as described. That is my motion.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Yeah. Second.
Okay, I saw Rich wave his hand next. Thanks, Rich. Okay, are there any questions for the applicant? Mark Arnold. Mark, do you have a question?
Okay, yeah. I'm just curious, is the fence going on the interior side of the new shrubbery that's planted, or between the shrubs and the street?
Well, Mr. Mazzetti, you can answer. The answer is both, in my opinion, but depending on where you are. But in the eventual end, there will be a great deal of shrubbery around it. But Mr. Mazzetti, please, it's your application.
75% will be inside, so it will be already be covered by plants that we already planted. Now there's an issue with a cable running on our property from a neighbor that prevents this from happening over the 100% as of now, but we are planting additional greenery to mask eventually 100% on Glen Arden and on Brook Ridge Drive.
I gave you a
So
virtual
eventually
thumbs
it will
up.
be all covered by greenery.
Mr. Bullock and Ms. Rogers
So
and I negotiated every linear foot of this fence, including the city's requirements at the corner and at the driveway. And we believe that he will strive to be and will be in compliance when he provides plans. And the city and the planning department will correct him if he is not.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we do have a motion that was properly seconded to recommend approval of V21-213, subject to the inclusion of an additional variance for a wall. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. Okay, I see 22, 23 ayes. Please lower your hand.
Debbie, FYI, I can lower all hands if you want to do that as we go along. It's
Can you
faster.
really? Oh my goodness. I've lost that capability. So yeah, that'd be great if you could do that.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, great. All those opposed to recommending approval with the inclusion of the additional variance, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. By a vote of 23 ayes and 0 nays, the motion carries.
Debbie, was that 22 or 23 votes in
23.
favor? 23, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next variance is V21-299, 626 East Morningside Drive Northeast. The applicant seeks a variance from the zoning regulations to 1, reduce the required west side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet, 2, increase the height of an accessory structure from 20 feet to 24.5 feet, and 3, increase the maximum total floor area of an accessory structure from 30% of the main structure to 53% of the main structure in order to construct 2 accessory structures, a garage carriage house and a pool pavilion. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I am Debbie. This is Diane Barfield.
Hey, Diane, thank you. Will you
Good
be?
evening. In the interest of time, all I want to do is elaborate. I want to tell you my property owners here. We've had, conversations with the adjoining property owners. And of course, we were last week was at the Morningside Lennox Park Association meeting. The one thing I want to clarify, because it's, as you stated, the variance is pretty obvious is what's going on. The percentage of increase in the size of the accessory structure, the technicality in the zoning ordinance requires all accessory structures, whether they need a setback variance or not, to be included in the total square footage. And so both our accessory structures, one which we're asking for a setback variance, the other one is completely within the buildable area of the lot. Both those combined together would exceed the 30%. That's why we are, increasing that to 53%. And I think that the rest of the proposal is self-explanatory, and our property owner and designers here, if y'all have any questions.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Morningside, do you have a report?
Yes, so the zoning committee and the board both recommended approval with the understanding that the neighbors had been notified and had a chance to review the plans.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any questions? Or is there any opposition to this variance request? Please raise your hand. Questions, comments?
Kidwell has his hand raised. I see
Okay,
that.
thank you. Mr. Kidwell?
Thank you, Debbie. This is Jeff Kidwell. I'm at 620 East Morningside Drive, next door to the applicant. I was not properly made aware of this application while it was going through the MLPA approval process. The property owner hand-delivered a cover sheet notice the business day before the board meeting to me. I tried to attend the board meeting last Monday. Based on some mix-up on the MLPA website, I was not able to voice my opposition and basically to try to get an understanding of the application. I requested the plans and a copy of the application last week. I first got the plans on December 16th and reviewed the plans. Going back to the last Monday's board meeting, well, I said I did not attend the board meeting. I have reviewed a recording of the meeting, and there was some incorrect information. The applicant stated that he had reviewed the application and the plans with me prior to last Monday's meeting. That is not true. First day I had the plans was November 16th. I did call the applicant. He and I spoke on the phone, had a nice conversation. And I told the applicant I'd like to work with him on the plans. I hope to work with him. What he's proposing is basically an almost 3,000 square feet under roof, 3-story structure, 3 feet off the property line. It's basically a townhouse in his backyard. I told him I want to work with him. I feel like the applicant has been deceiving in the application without notifying. Certainly, I'm one next door. I cannot speak to the other next door neighbor, but I was not made aware of this application in a timely fashion to provide my input and work with the applicant like I told him I wanted to. So that's, I tried to attend the meeting the board meeting last Monday to understand what was going on, because I was 100% unaware of the proposed plans for this variance request.
And do you have any specific objections to the application?
Yes, Debbie, I do. Basically, the location of the accessory building, the size of the accessory building, the height of the accessory building. It is the proposed accessory building is almost 3,000 square feet under roof, which is approximately the size of the existing house. It's completely unproportional to the lot. There's plenty of room on the lot to build within the zoning envelope to put an accessory building. But building basically a 3,000 square foot accessory, called accessory building in the backyard, does not fit the character of the neighborhood or the intention of the zoning ordinance.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to talk to the applicant about your concerns?
I did have, yes, I have. We spoke on the phone last Thursday evening And we actually have a planned meeting with the applicant and his team this week. So I'm looking forward to providing the input and hopefully working together to come up with something that is in everybody's best interest.
Okay, so let me ask the applicant, where are you with this application? Diane,
My property owner is online here, and he had the phone conversation with Mr. Kidwell. Mr. Reese, are you still online?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to
Yes.
respond to that?
Yes. So the facts are, not only did we do the certified mailing, I personally, in addition to the certified mailing that was required as a part of notifying the neighbors.
I'm sorry, your sound is breaking up.
Is that better?
Yes.
So in addition to the certified mail that we did as part of the protocol, I thought it was also appropriate and neighborly to also hand deliver a copy of the letter to all of the neighbors to keep them informed of what's happening to the variance and where we are and this project. And I think we've been extremely transparent and communicative to everyone in the neighborhood in the project and what needed to happen. The garage that is currently there, the structure that sits on the property line, needs to be torn down, and as part of the renovation, we are moving it off of the property line to improve the neighborhood. And when you look at the property that's nearly 100 years old and these lots that are unconforming, I think common sense must prevail, and looking at what we're doing to improve the property in what's currently there. And I think we've been more than transparent in what we've done with the neighbors. And the only person who's been who's ever objective through this entire process is Jeff. Is the only one that I've ever gotten any pushback from really day one. And any other feedback has been well received from all other neighbors. And I have all the documentation that I'm happy to share with the group in terms of communication, emails, letters, the signed letters that we've received. I'm happy to provide that to the group.
So I'm going to say something that's a little flip, but from the city's perspective, they mostly care about what the NPU says, and our NPU relies on the neighborhood to do all of the hard work on these applications. But at the end of the day, it's the NPU's voice that counts to the city. So what I'd like to ask is, there is a meeting that's scheduled for this week. From your perspective, what do you see to be accomplished at this meeting? Are you open to making any changes to your application?
I think that the compromise, and I think the improvement from a design perspective, when you look at the application that we have set forth and the design element in there, and when you're comparing it to the existing survey and the existing structure that's there and what's being built, we're actually improving the property by moving the structure away from his property. And so I think that is a dramatic improvement compared to what is currently existing on the property. And so when you look at the context of what we're doing in terms of improving the butting up against the property line, that is the improvement, by taking down the old structure and actually moving it away from his property by the variance that we're currently requesting. I think that is the compromise that we've already set forth.
Okay, Diane?
Sure. Debbie, I'd also like to point out, this property is the subject of a riparian buffer encroachment permit. Approximately 33% of the developable area of the lot is in the stream buffer. And we had to go to great lengths to meet the city's criteria for riparian buffer encroachment. And we did an extensive public notification for the stream buffer that is this particular plan that we are asking for the zoning variance on. That certification mail, there was a sign posted on the property for the stream buffer for 30 days, and we sent certified mail out to property owners 200 feet upstream and 300 feet downstream, and all of the adjoining neighbors were part of that public notification, for the stream buffer. And the stream buffer is finite. We had to do that process before applying for the variance, because there's no appeal to that, as y'all may know. And you can go to the BZA and ask for a zoning variance. And so that put us into the position of applying for the zoning variance after we had been processed through the riparian buffer encroachment permit. And
Right.
And in relationship to the size of the structure.
Diane, I know we are all familiar with the buffer encroachment, but what is being requested at this meeting is the variance application, and the location, size, and height of the buildings, I don't believe are placed there, I'm sure, because of where the encroachment is. But that's what we're here to approve, not to the.
I understand, Debbie. I was just trying to clarify about the public notification on the plan that's being proposed. And of course, the location and the stream buffer would not be, well, they would be concerned with the size, but not as far as the footprint. But of course, the location of the building would have been part of the riparian buffer, criteria.
Right. There are two hands raised. Jack, did you have a comment?
Yes, I have several comments. With all due respect to the applicant, really doesn't help us too much to know that you approve of your own plans. I'm sure you do. If you didn't, you would have changed them and would have brought a different set of plans. The issue that's in front of this body, it seems to me, is this own body's own rules, not about the stream buffer piece. Mr. Kidwell invited representatives from Morningside, and I attended as well because of some experience in that area a month ago to look at the stream buffer. And I think we all agreed that the plans that the stream buffer committee had come up with were adequate and decent for the situation. So that's not on the question either. The question is that this body has its own set of rules that the adjacent neighbors will be notified in a manner that gives them time to react in a logical and intelligent and timely way. Now, we don't define what the point is, and it's in fact proportionate in my mind, as somebody who's done this for more than a decade at Virginia Highland, it's directly proportionate to the complexity of the proposal. So for example, if you're changing the portico on your front porch, then barely any notification is needed. It's obvious and easy to understand. If you're having an extremely complex proposal that involves a stream buffer notification, an extraordinary percentage of lot coverage, et cetera, it should require more. The question here is whether or not, it seems to me, Mr. Kidwell received that notice in time to be able to logically and not hurriedly react in a way that gave him a chance to make his feelings known to the morning's MLPA. It is really not whether or not MLPA, with all respect to them, thought it was okay in their own opinion. They may think so, they may be right, perhaps I might too, or perhaps I might not. I haven't received those plans or looked at them. So those are our rules. And those are the ones that we ought to, it seems to me, be concerned about honoring. Otherwise, we should drop them. We should quit telling the neighbor groups like Virginia Holland, I speak for myself now, that we need to go bother with doing that rather irksome tasks that we ask neighbors to do, to notify their neighbors in a timely way, not at the last minute, not the night before, not anything like that, depending on the complexity. This is an extraordinarily complex application. And it's beyond the ken of most folks to react to unless they're professional builders or designers, and it would require a fair amount of time to get help to evaluate it. So that's the rule that seems to me is in front of us, and not the riparian buffer, not the certified letters and so forth. And the promise to negotiate after the NPU meeting is pretty damn useless. And Madam Chair, I will only say that you are an extreme optimist, not unsupported by statistics, to think that the BZA historically cares much of a damn whatever we do. I do suggest that what I'm asking is it sounds to me like there's an issue with our own rules about getting the information to the applicant, to the neighbors in a timely way. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Brian Berry?
Yes, good evening. My name is Brian Berry, and I am the other next door neighbor to Jeremy and Philip. And all I can say is that I have been working with them. They have been forthright and forward with notifications. I will not speak to the size or anything else about that structure that they're planning, except that the existing garage is dilapidated and ready to fall down. It's already leaning, and he's proposed a massive replacement upgrade that would move it away from the border. I'll let him work out with Mr. Kidwell any of the details relating to that specific structure, because it's on Mr. Kidwell's side of the property. But as the owner of the property, or the co-owner of the property on the other side, I will say that he has been working with us as far as notifications, plans, diagrams, etc. I don't know specifically what the timeliness requirements are, but he has been communicating with us regularly and ahead of any meetings that were being held. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Kidwell?
Thank you. So it's obvious that Jeremy knows the notification process, and he's chosen to omit, and he's chosen to omit me from the process, obviously. I've told Jeremy I would like to work with him. I want to work with him. I've been in my house, my family's been in the house 10 years. What he's proposing is basically a 3-story townhouse, if you will, 3 feet from the property line. Roughly, I mean, it's about 3,000 square feet under roof. The proper timely notifications were not given, absolutely did not solicit any input at all in the design process. I'm a registered civil engineer with decades of land development experience, so I kind of know how this process goes. The applicant intentionally did not include us during the process.
Sucks. Okay, thank you.
Well,
Are there any other comments, questions, or is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to defer for 1 month so that all interested parties can have their say in this matter.
I'll second.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Sure.
Is that Jack?
Yes, it is. And I think if the parties can agree to do that, that would be in the spirit of the way this NPU has tried to act historically and in the spirit of how we normally proceed. I also know that, as you know, because we got the same notice, that the BZA is running behind, and there's some of the applicants, including the aforementioned Mr. Mazzetti, have been warned that even his January date may not be operable due to, but I don't know that. The point I'm making is that if that's agreeable to the applicant, that would be great. And that does not mean, and neither Mr. Kidwell nor the applicant should think it means, that he does not have to approve of these plans. This NPU does not require neighbor approval. It requires it asks and expects a reasonable time to reasonably appraise for the proposal. And it expects that once that's in hand, that the neighbors will react expeditiously, not in an emergency fashion. So if the applicant will go with that, that would be great. And he can be assured that in the next month, the burden shifts to Mr. Kidwell to examine these plans, to get whatever help he needs. He can ask Morningside, he can ask others, he can hire his own and mount a reasonable response. And so if the applicant will accept that, that would be great, and it would earn my appreciation and approval and be consistent.
So the plans that Mark Arnold has created and Brian Fields and his team, which are, in my opinion, one of the best in the cities, and they've done extensive work within Morningside and other communities. They've spent, I think, a lot of time and energy creating a very thoughtful design for the property, and the design that they have set forth is the design that I would like to go with, and the design and the proposal and the variance that we're wanting to have, and the accommodations that we're looking for. I think if you look at it from a logical standpoint, if you look at the application, if you look at the design that has been set forth, it makes sense logically with the hardship that is presented in the lot. And those are part of the applications that we're looking for.
Yes, Mr. Arnold breathes the rarefied, delightful air in Virginia Highland every single evening. So we have tremendous faith in his work and really admire him. That has nothing whatsoever to do with the process and the points I just made, however.
That is correct.
But it also doesn't allow, regardless of the experience of the next door neighbor, they do not have the ability to dictate the project.
Whoa.
They do not. You are absolutely right, sir. I said that very much so. They are not that group, but they have the right to examine it and pose questions that Mr. Arnold, who's a very reasonable person, might or might not agree with. We often seek Mr. Arnold's counsel on projects he's not invested in, and he often helps. So we have a very high opinion of him. We're talking about the process, and my earlier point is the irony of this is, even if you insist on plowing ahead, you may not actually get to the date that you have in mind. I don't know that, and I have no control over that, and I hope you do. Well, my point is, it would be a nice gesture to agree to defer on the grounds that it may not matter anyway. You may get deferred in spite of yourself. And if you didn't, it does not prejudice against Mr. Arnold's judgment. And of course, I understand you like your own plans. I'd be shocked if you didn't.
Well, they're not my plans. They're Mark's
No,
plans.
they are your plans. They're the plans for your house that you paid for. They're yours. And that's fine. That's the way the system works. When Mr. Arnold designs for me in the future someday, there will be my plans that he designs. But my point is that this is a gesture about helping us all understand that that's the point. Get the plans early and quickly, especially complicated ones to neighbors. If they wait to the last second to react, then the devil with them. But if they do need that opportunity to react. And I think your riparian plans are fine. And I trumped right down there behind Mr. Kidwell's yard and trumped all around them and peered at yours. And I think they're going to be fine if you'll install them. The riparian piece, I'm not talking about the rest. So if you could accept that, that would be a great outcome. And you will find a lot of goodwill on that point next month, I predict. But it's your call. If you don't want to do it, you have the right to plow ahead, and then we'll take a separate vote.
Is that we do have a motion on the floor, and it was properly seconded to defer for 1 month. And so
It doesn't work if he doesn't accept. That's all.
well, that's right. So
Debbie, may I say something else, please? Quickly.
briefly.
Again, I'm Jeremy. I called you last Thursday, the day I got.
No, let's not do this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
not,
not.
yeah, that I agree with Jack on
You're
that. We don't want to do that. So, Mr. Reese, are you open to considering a deferral for 1 month? And as Jack stated, your BZA date is a little mushy right now anyway, because the city is having difficulty.
Yeah, that was
And I know you're aware of that as well.
yeah, that was what.
So are you willing to take another month and come back to the NPU in January, or January 15th meeting, I think, third Monday of the month?
Debbie, can I just clarify your deferral motion is to come back to the full NPU?
Yeah, just to the full
And
NPU.
to the other subcommittee. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Diane, it's designed to let see if there's any resolution, if he has any good, Mr. Kidwell has good points. And by the way, they need, as Mr. Reese points out, he can reject them all for any reason he likes, and this group will wind up voting on what's in front of us next month. At least at that point, the chance to respond and make your arguments will be had. And normally this works out, amazingly enough. Normally there's some, maybe not dead in the middle, but normally there's some agreeable, acceptable thing. Again, most people are quite reasonable. I'm sure all the parties here are very reasonable. And I believe that, I really do.
Yeah, so Mr. Reese, what do you think?
We can defer.
Okay, great.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the spirit in which that was done. Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much.
you. Thank you. Okay, so there's a
May I
motion.
say, hold on before we finish, Mr. Kidwell, you need to act expeditiously now. You need to come up with a logical, not personal set of opinion about that support your arguments and get with the folks involved, and they're very reasonable. I think you'll learn a lot in the process. You know a lot, you'll learn even more. So,
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's take a vote. The motion is to defer 1 month to allow an opportunity for Mr. Reese, Mr. Kidwell to discuss the plans, perhaps make some adjustments. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Has everyone voted that wants to vote? I see 16 ayes. All, Kay, you can lower the hands. Ooh, boy, that was fast. Okay. All those in opposed to deferring for 1 month, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised. By a vote of 16 ayes, 0 nays. The motion to defer 1 month carries. We will see everyone back in January, and we do meet on MLK weekend. Ready for the next case, V21-300, 1334 Edmund Park Drive Northeast. The applicant seeks a variance from the zoning regulation to reduce the required rear yard setback from 15 feet to 3.5 feet to construct a porch at the rear of the existing single-family residence. This is in Edmund Park. Is the applicant present? Lori? I think you're here. Is the applicant present? B 21300.
She's here.
Yeah, I know she's here. I'm just not seeing her.
Laura, unmute yourself and speak up.
She's unmuted. That's part of the problem too. Lori Garrow?
We can't hear you. I don't know what you mean when you're pointing to your phone, but we can't hear you.
Oh, Lord. Lori, if you're on your phone, hit *6 and that should unmute you.
No.
Okay, well, Lori's trying to figure out how to connect with us, then we're going to, I think we have one more application. Well, that's the last application. Okay, wait, hang on. Corey? Do you want to try dialing in, Lori?
That's what she's doing,
Okay.
according to the chat.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, let's give Lori a little bit of time to dig in and move to the planner's report. Doug Young, do you have a report for us?
I do indeed. Thank you very much, Debbie. We have a couple quick announcements for the NPU Planners Report for December. First off, the NPU University will be back in January with an exciting curriculum of 2022, including a community planning certificate program. And want to note that we had 1,846 people who took one of the 18 classes this past year, so over 1,800 folks. And then we're also continuing our public process for the multi-year zoning ordinance rewrite called ATL Zoning 2.0. On the 14th was one of the most recent sessions of December 14th of December at 6 p.m. for one of the idea labs. There are more opportunities for public input coming up, and I'll post the link in the in the chat where you can get information about our forthcoming idea labs and other opportunities to comment on the zoning rewrite. And that is our announcements for December.
That's it. Okay, thanks, Doug. Is Lori in the room?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yay.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Sorry about
describe the
that.
project.
Okay. Well, first, before I begin, I really do want to thank Debbie and Jack, who have patiently answered all my questions my first time through this process. I know this is a volunteer work, and so I really do appreciate everything you and the committee do. With respect to our specific request, we are at Edmund Park Drive, and our backyard is a little bit smaller than our neighbors. Right now, from the edge of our home to the property line is 18.5 feet. So that gives us 3.5 feet to build anything. When we bought the home, it had a 3.5-foot deck exactly. And we would like to remove that deck structure and build a covered porch that would extend off the second floor of our home in a manner that is consistent with those of many of the other homes in the neighborhood, including 1330 Edmund Park Drive. So our plans are basically to mimic, if you will, exactly what's built at 1330 Edmund Park Drive, with two main exceptions. One, we would not have stairs going down, And the second is we would not have brick pavers on the first floor. So it would just be a second story level. All of our neighbors were notified as required, meaning the 3 in the front, 3 in the back, and 1 on each side. The Neighborhood Association Edmond Park also looked at and approved the plan with the caveat they deferred to you guys, the NPU, to ensure that the setback request of 3.5 feet was appropriate, didn't encroach on property, et cetera. And we don't have any anticipated impact to the trees. So that's our request. We basically would like to build a covered porch and we can't do it with 3.5 feet. So we got to request a variance.
Is there
Madam
anyone
Chair.
here from the Edmond Park neighborhood? Or Jack, are you?
No, but they sent a note with that. There's no disagreement. I think I speak accurately from the Edmond Park Homeowners Association. And Laurie also noted that there is some room left over should the city require some stormwater compensation. It's not clear that they will, but there is room in our backyard, it appears. And there are no tree impacts, and I move approval.
I'll second that.
Jack has moved it. Kay Stevenson is seconding it. Are there any questions for Lori? Questions? I don't see any hands raised. Are y'all ready to vote? The motion is to recommend approval of V21-300, which is at 1334 Edmond Park Drive. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Oops. Has everyone voted that wants to vote? Has everyone voted? Okay, I see 15 ayes. Okay, you can drop our hands. Oh, great, thank you. Is there anyone opposed to recommending approval of V21-300? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So by a vote of 15 ayes, 0 nays, the motion to recommend approval carries. That is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. That is the end of the variance reports. We've done the planners reports. Our last items of business are the neighborhood and committee reports. Lindridge Martin Manor, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Lindridge Martin Manor joined with Piedmont Heights once again. I'm not sure how many years, but at least 10 years in bringing Thanksgiving dinner over to our folks, the Atlanta Fire and Rescue over on Monroe Drive. They were very appreciative, and we had a great turnout in both neighborhoods for this. Also on December 14th, the bridge over the confluence of the South and North Forks of Peachtree Creek was dedicated. Lots of city officials were there, and this was described as the spaghetti junction of the link for the Belt Line, the Peachtree Greenway, 400 I-400 trail, and for the South Fork Trail. So it's a major improvement for all our neighborhoods.
Cool, thanks. Piedmont Heights? Bill? Compton?
Hi, Debbie. It's Bill Compton, President, Piedmont Heights Civic Association. No specific report this week. Piedmont Heights Civic Association did not meet in the month of December.
Okay, and when are you selecting officers?
That'll be done in January.
Okay.
At our January board meeting.
Great. Morningside, Lenox Park. Any report?
Hey, we are in the holiday spirit, having collected a van full of toys for the APD Zone 6 toy drive and recognized APD officers in Zone 2 and Zone 6, in addition to Atlanta Fire and Rescue with their neighboring communities. If Anyone has a connection to a car dealership, we're looking to upgrade our security patrol vehicle. And lastly, Sydney Marcus Park is finally going to break ground on their major renovation. And most of the park, including the playground area, will be closed through March at least. And Holly might have something to add to that for our neighborhood.
Holly, anything to add? Oh, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Marla, too. I just wanted to remind everybody that the Morningside Nature Preserve suspension bridge is closed for repairs. It's actually in a dangerous condition. The city has closed it for a reason, and we see a lot of visitors climbing over the barricades, and we just want to reinforce to everyone that they should not be climbing over the barricades. The city is expediting the repair. I was told by Commissioner Dargle that some civil engineer, well, actually somebody working for him, that some civil engineers were evaluating the bridge within the next week probably. And Commissioner Dargle told me that they had chosen to outsource the repairs so that it could be done quickly. And also they should be repairing the boardwalk as well. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, Virginia Highland.
And Jesselyn, do you want to give the report?
Is Jesselyn still here?
Hi, yes, I am. Sorry, I just dialed in just a few moments ago. Let's see, what do we have to report? It was a pretty quiet meeting on last week. Let's see.
Tour of Homes volunteers are available too.
Yes.
Go on the
Yes.
website. There's a link.
I actually put the link in the chat, Jack, for anyone who wants to volunteer for Tour of Homes, which will be March 19th. And you get 2 free tickets to the tour if you volunteer for a shift. So sign up, please.
Great. Anything else? No. Okay, Edmund Park.
I would just add, we had our first annual Winterfest in Virginia Highland the first weekend in December. That was hosted by the Virginia Highland District Association. And I unfortunately was out of town, but the report I had was that it was a huge success. The APD officers providing security estimated that about 10,000 people cycled through throughout the days, including the race and all the other activities. So it was really a big success.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I was astounded.
Yeah. Edmund Park, do you have a report? Is anyone here to report on it? Emory CDC area Druid Hills. Is committee reports, park, trees, and environment.
Yes. I just want to remind everybody who has a child between 14 and 18 that Trees Atlanta has a youth work program starting in June, and it runs for 5 weeks. They'll be out there working hard during the summer, 5 hours a day. They get paid. And if so, your child, your middle school or high school student is looking for 5 weeks of employment this summer, go to the Trees Atlanta website, scout around, I think it's under programs, fill out an application. It has to be done sometime in February. And you can get them out of the house for 25 hours a week during the summer. I also want to reiterate what Holly said about the bridge. Coming from a National Park Service background, if a city agency or a government agency says, do not cross the bridge, it's under repair, really you're putting yourself in danger. And also it's a liability situation too. And if a suit comes up, then everybody pays for it. That suit is successful. So please heed the advice and do not cross that bridge.
Okay, I'll stay off of it. Education report, Education Committee. Is Leah here? I don't see.
She is not, although I guess she's technically doesn't start until January.
That's true. Public safety, do we have a public safety report? other than what we heard from the majors earlier today?
I think we've already covered it all.
Okay. And I do have a chair report. Couple items, especially for the neighborhoods. The first is the community impact grants. Those of you that receive grants have been hearing from me, received grants in 2021. The closeout is due to the city by 12/31. They are not being flexible this year. If we want to be eligible for 2022 funds, we have to send in a report, and they're being very picky about what they accept. So I have been very picky on what I'm accepting as well. I do have Piedmont Heights report. I think I've got everything that I need. But Morningside,
I'll get it.
please, please get that to me. And I just want to note that I'm going to be out of town starting on December 23rd. So if you could get it to me before I leave, it won't muck up my vacation. And then for 2022, the community grant packages were sent to us, and I forward that to the neighborhoods and to previous project managers. There are a couple things that are new for the 2022 grant program. The first is that the NPU's maximum reward award is $5,000. In previous years, it was $4,000, although we've received some supplemental grants in previous years, but $5,000. And there's also a $1,500 training incentive that will be given to NPUs if they attend 3 training programs. One is the NPU chair training. One is secretary officer training on which I believe is on the 15th of January, and then parliamentary procedures training. More information coming out for that. So we do have the possibility of getting a total of $6,500 this year. If you're interested in receiving a grant, please let me know. We have to vote at our January meetings on the, to receive NPU approval for those grants. And the deadline for submission of the documentation is February 4th. So we'll want to get moving on that as soon as possible. Just send me an email if you're interested. The next item is the neighborhood directory. Planning sent out a Survey Monkey questionnaire to all neighborhoods that are listed in the neighborhood directory. This is a published online, and apparently there's a paper version of it. That's used by city departments. If you receive the survey, please fill it out. It only takes a couple of minutes, and return it to the city by 12/31. In this case, it doesn't go back to the NPU in the first step, but once you complete it, planning will send a copy to me, and I will verify that you are actually organizations that we recognize in the NPU. If you didn't receive a copy, or you trashed a copy because you didn't think it was meant for you and your neighborhood president, let me know, and I can send you another copy. Some neighborhood presidents use a generic email address, like the president of Morningside is president@mlpa.com. Others use personal email addresses. My recommendation is, if you can, use a generic version so that we don't have to update this every year, and it doesn't matter who the president is, they'll just get it. For NPU reps, each year I ask neighborhood rep presidents to confirm their neighborhood reps to the NPU, and I'll do this towards the end of January, after the MLPA and Piedmont Heights have their officer selections. And I'm also going to be asking for neighborhood committee chairs so that I can make sure that I have correct email addresses and can get you notifications that I receive from the city. These are things like noise variance permits. Marla and I are intimately aware of those. Filming permits, buffer encroachment notices, subdivision requests and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure I've got the correct person to provide that information to. And then for NPU officers, the ethics department is requiring that the chair, vice chair, zoning chairs, and APAB delegates and alternates attends ethics training. It's scheduled on January 22nd. You all should be receiving a notice. There was a mention at the APAB meeting that it could be in person on the 22nd. I personally don't want to go downtown and park, but we'll see how that comes up. APAB met on Saturday. This is the last APAB meeting for 2021. Doug Shipman, council president-elect, was our featured speaker. He was very impressive at the meeting. He said citizen engagement is a key component to city council chair appointments, which is the first time I've heard that. He also said that he's exploring ways for public comment portion of the council meetings to be more meaningful. When asked, he said he would support a council work session on the tree ordinance rewrite. This morning, council voted to file both the planning department's tree ordinance draft and also the citizen blended version of the tree ordinance draft. And those ordinances will come back again next year. Leah LaRue announced at the meeting that there have been some discussions that City Hall would open to the public in January, although no decisions have been made. She also said that planning will be sending out a survey asking for NPU preferences for our own meeting. We have NPU-F decided a while ago to continue to meet virtually until further notice. We can take another look at that decision, obviously, and we'll need to decide if we want to go back to Hillside or if they'll even take us back or identify a new location for our meetings. Also, and I'm throwing this out as a thought starter, should the NPU move our meetings to another day other than the third Monday of the month? The reason why I'm asking is for a couple reasons. One is that our meetings almost always coincide with council meetings, which makes it difficult for our council member to be here. And also 2 of our meetings, the one in January and February, each take place on federal holidays. And we get a very low turnout of city employees to those meetings. So if we move it to a Tuesday or Wednesday of the same week, we might have a little better city representation. So once again, just food for thought. Any questions about any of the reports? Comments? Okay, I don't see any. Yeah.
If we did move it to say the Tuesday or Wednesday, would it interfere with any regularly scheduled meetings of the other neighborhoods? I have to sort of point it out to the other representatives of the neighborhoods.
To my knowledge, there are no neighborhood meetings that take place in the third week of the month.
I think that's true. I don't think there are even like zoning committee meetings in the third week. But we'll have to verify that.
The only meeting that I thought of that there might be a conflict with our LRB meetings, which is every other Tuesday, but they meet at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. And they're over pretty quickly.
Yeah, they can be over pretty fast.
I think that has something, moving it may have merit. Good suggestion.
Yeah, you know, years ago, maybe at the end of the 90s, I thought the NPU actually met on a Tuesday night. And I'm not sure when it changed to Monday. I'll have to check with Jane when she's back. Any other business to come before the NPU? There's no old business, there are no text amendments, there's no new business.
Maybe you just mentioned Jane. For those that have worked closely with Jane, to know that her mom has passed away, and that's why she's not here this evening. So our condolences to Jane and her family.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. I thought you all just wanted to be here all night. Okay. Any objections to adjourning the meeting?
Sorry, didn't mean to laugh.
Seeing none, please hang up.
Everybody have a great holiday.
Happy holidays to everyone. We'll see you.
Happy
next
holiday, Debbie.
year. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next year. Don't forget, you can copy, save the chat. I hope.
Yep.
Yay. That didn't work with the APAB.
Oh, jeez. Okay, good night, Debbie. I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah. I hope you're feeling better by then.
Well, I will caveat, if I think I'm still germy, I won't subject you to that, but I am feeling a little better. So I'll let you know on Wednesday morning. How's that?
That's great.
Okay. Take care.
Okay, it's just the two of us. I can end the meeting.